I love you.
Gentlefolk, ladies and men, we're glad to have you here again. So please won't you come on in and sit with us on the couch. I had to stretch it, but I tried to work it in there. I could see the irritation on your face when you're choosing that. Welcome back, everybody. I am the Green Traveler from Gorsh.
And I am the Faceless Leon. And he chose this as I was drinking some water. So I just wanted to let you know that he almost killed me. Like, as you know, if I choke even just a little bit when I open up the vortex to drink and or eat,
you could suck the whole room in.
Yeah, I could suck the whole room in, man. I mean, you gotta be careful.
You can't interrupt that process. It's a very delicate time. Oh man, you absolutely hate that jingle, and it kind of surprised me that you did.
Oh my god. I'm kind of surprised that it didn't irritate you. You hate things that repeat. And it is...
I do, but see, okay, so we're talking Halloween 3. We're talking the third films of all these franchises that we've been talking for the past, 1 week and then, a year before that. Right,
yes. and this is also Green and Faceless on the Couch, a podcast about movies and TV.
That's correct, it is. And in Halloween 3, there is a commercial jingle. It is the whole crux of the movie. It's the villain of the movie. And it's just this little, it's a commercial jingle based off of the London Bridge is Falling Down tune. And it's just happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. I fucking love it. And the reason I love it, as we'll talk about when we do Halloween 3, I don't want to start with Halloween 3, but the reason I love it is because of how the film uses it. And like how they play with it, because it is an annoying fucking song. It has such a special part, but it's got such a special part in my heart. Like I love it so much and so dear. But first, before we talk that, let us talk, as we have the order we have been doing these in is Friday the 13th first. So let's do Friday the 13th.
I realize now that even though we agreed beforehand that this was the order, as it has been, that this is the film I remember the least.
Oh, I mean, that's by design. I think that's by design. I think Friday the 13th is cut and paste bullshit. That's all it is. And as you say, this is also the film I remember the least, but not because it's the one I watched the oldest. I mean, that's true also, but just because it sucks. It's so bad.
Maybe it does. While I was watching it, I was thinking, this isn't bad. This is fun.
It's technically better than the first two, but the fact that it's just the exact same as the first two makes it worse.
But though, at the same time, it's not. They're not campers this time. They're just people chilling at this lady's cabin. Chris, played by Dana Kimmel. She just brings her friends out to the cabin. And some reason Jason's there. And she has been attacked by Jason before.
Yeah, it's where he was recuperating from the last film. So at the end of part 2, he's wounded really fucking badly by Amy Steele.
Why they
I
showed
can't remember
that at the beginning.
Jenny, that's her name.
Yeah, she's a badass.
Yeah, she was the hero of the first one.
Chris is pretty good too.
Yeah, this film was supposed to follow Jenny. It was supposed to be a self-defense film, years in the future, where Jenny is in college or whatever. Jason comes back because she's the one who got away. The whole Michael thing. That's why Michael's always after Jamie Lee Curtis. She's the one who got away. He goes after her, and the original plan for this film, he kills Paul, the guy from the end of the last film.
Oh, okay.
And then because he does that, it becomes the original idea was Amy Steele, playing Jenny, was going to go on a revenge hunt for Jason. She was like, you killed Paul.
Awesome.
I'm fucking... Right? It sounds really awesome. No, Amy Steele didn't want to come back, and so we scrapped that whole idea, and then we did this film.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Amy. You got to do whatever you got to do, but that could have gone down in history.
It could have. It probably wouldn't have, but it could have.
But listen, everybody knows about this film series. And maybe that would have been maybe that would have been the notch in it that actually made it pretty decent.
Right. What she had to weigh was, did she want to fall into that typecast? You know, it's like if you do 2 films of a franchise, now you're the face of the franchise.
That's true.
You know?
That is true. Yeah, Jamie Lee is locked in.
Exactly.
But she's still Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean,
that's true. But here's the fun part about Friday the 13th, Part 3, or Part III, or Part 3D, as many people call it. Because this one is the only one in the franchise.
How did I forget?
Yeah, it's the only film in the franchise to be filmed in 3D, and rightfully so, because, Jesus, they had no fucking idea how to use it. They were...
All right, listen, though. Every gag did crack me up.
It's pretty funny when you notice it.
Yeah.
It's right off the bat.
Every time.
You don't even have to know this film was filmed in 3D to immediately pick up on the fact that it was filmed in 3D, because they open up on like a baseball bat, like sticking at the camera screen. It's just like, look at it.
I was like, what is this up with this weird center shot? I mean,
I know. I saw that and I was like, oh, this must have been filmed in 3D. It's like, God damn it. But another fun fact about this film, I looked up all of the Rotten Tomatoes ratings, and if you don't know how Rotten Tomatoes works, you have a critic score, you have an audience score.
Okay.
And this wasn't the worst film for the audiences. They didn't hate this film too much. This is the worst film in the franchise from the critics, though.
Wow.
Because only 7% of critics on Rotten Tomatoes enjoy this film, or gave it a thumbs up, or whatever the fucking tomato meter reads. Yeah, it is hated by critics, and I understand why. It is literally just derivative slasher bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, it was camp to the extreme. I mean,
yeah.
Oh god.
And they even the dialogue is even like tongue in cheek, poking fun at it, because there's a moment where one of the characters is like, "Sex, sex, sex. That's all you guys talk about. It's so boring." And it's just so funny because it's like, yep. They know that's all this franchise has evolved into is sex and murder, and that's it. There's no other function. There's just people having sex or people moping about not having sex, and then they get killed.
Yeah, so as we said, people have sex in this movie. I don't really remember those characters, though. No. The characters I remember are, of course, Chris, but honestly, barely. I'm sorry.
I don't even remember her. I know she has that final the final lady of this movie, but I don't really remember her fight with Jason all too much.
Yeah, I remember her getting away to the point and thinking like she hurt him really bad, but he's Jason, so whatever.
Right.
And then her being in a boat and him. I
do remember she drove a machete through his head. I do remember that.
Right. Oh yeah, the movie ends, spoilers. This, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. If you're gonna watch, you're either gonna watch this movie or you're not. It's old, and we're kind of shitting on it too. So
right, I technically don't recommend it, but it is fun if you're just in the mood for slashers.
Right? Yeah.
It's like if you just want to watch a slasher, it's fine.
Like the first thing I said about it was that I enjoyed watching it, but it's not memorable in any way.
No. Yeah. Exactly.
It did not stick with me at all. But I do remember that she's riding down the river. And he's in all the houses. But also the movie ends with that shot of panning out with the machete still in his head and him dead on the hayloft. So Jason's dead. Story's over.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it actually was supposed to be, they didn't market it as such, but it was supposed to be the end of a trilogy.
Right.
They were just kind of like, we're fucking done with this. We don't know where to go with this. We're just going to kill him and hope that it's done. Obviously, it wasn't done. They brought it back for the fourth one. But it was like, that was their intention, was to just end it. They're just like, fuck it. There's a machete in his head. What are you going to do with that now? And that's it. And then there's also, I remember...
next week, I guess.
Yeah, right. We'll be back with another Friday the 13th anthology series. And this time we'll be following a different thing and not Jason, please. Nope. But I do remember they also call back to the end of the first movie, and that they have Jason's mom jump out of the water and attack Chris.
Right. Yeah, that was so stupid.
Stupid.
I was like, wait, what? Like, why is she in the water? The last time we even saw her head was gone, so I was not even sure if it was supposed to be her. Like, right? Also, Chris,
it's very zombified.
If it's supposed to be her dream, though, too, the way that it's set up, then how did she even know about his mom? Like, these people are like super removed from the other stories. The only thing she knows about Jason is that he attacked her when she was alone in the woods one night.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So she's prepared because she has, PTSD a little bit. So she's waiting for this shit to happen again. And so it does, and that's why she survives. But all her friends die.
And I forgot they had cut out, just slightly had cut this part out. It's still kind of in there. It kind of implies that Jason raped her in the past.
Yeah, yes, because she did not remember what happened and she woke up in her room.
And I think I remember in the original script, they were just blatantly like, dude attacked her and raped her and she got away. And like, I'm glad they cut that out of the script. But it's like, it seems so unlike Jason. Like, Jason just kills. He doesn't seem like he's interested in sex.
He doesn't have a sexual drive,
And if anything, sex pisses him off. Like, he sees it, he's like, fuck them.
Kill the sinners!
But it's just like, I'm glad they cut it because it's like, one, like, fucking why? Like, he's already villainous. You don't need to keep making him more villainous. Like, he murders campers. Like, it's not Freddy. You don't have to keep adding more, like, unnecessarily disgusting, terrible things to Freddy. That makes him more frightening.
Right.
But Jason's frightening as is. He's at his most frightening, actually, because he gets the fucking mask finally.
He finally gets the hockey mask, and he gets it from none other than Shelley. Poor stupid Shelley. I don't know, that I did find some sort of endearment with this character, probably because I identified with him on some level, but he definitely is constantly self-deprecating himself, which I guess that's what self-deprecation is. But also the other kids, like, you can tell the other kids don't like him as much, but they never actually make fun of him or anything. It's all Shelley. Shelley just keeps on doing it to himself. Like, he wants to try to get their attention and to be their friends, particularly, I don't remember what the girl he was intested's name is. The woman.
No.
I don't know.
I can't remember. I don't remember any of these. Like, as I told you before we started recording, all the characters, I just call them, like, their stereotypical names. It's just what their personalities are in the movie. That it's stoner guy girl. Or, stoner guy girl. Stoner guy and stoner girl. You don't like the name I call Shelley, so I won't say Shelley's name.
He's the nerd. Okay? I think that's better than the fat kid.
It is better.
Okay.
Yeah, I call him the fat kid. Well, that's all he is in this whole movie. Is he just complains about his identity, and it's just, which again, like, as you said, I do also relate to that. You know, I am a very self-deprecating person, and I definitely, mock my own image a lot. But at the same time, like, that's all this kid was.
It was that no, it was one note. Definitely. And he pulls pranks on them to get attention. That's the other thing. But it's like a little tiny shelf of a second dimension.
Right.
But it's not, it's built on the same, it's nearly the same level as the other defining factor, so fuck. Well, anyways, Larry Zerner tried. And he does these stunts, And that's, they kind of play out The Boy Who Cried Wolf with that. And
yeah. And that was kind of to be expected, but I liked it when it happened. I was just like, all right. Because he likes to put on a lot of makeup and make it look like he's like been stabbed or something.
Right.
Like it's a movie prank. I think he wants to be in films or something like that. I can't remember what his career goal was. He mentions it in a line.
I don't know, but I think that this is in California.
Yeah, because I think he, like, in the very beginning, when you first meet his character, he, like, says something that's like, oh, come on, I'm gonna go out and be, like, in the movies, I'm gonna do, like, makeup, or whatever, right. And it's like, oh, okay, that's your character, I get it. But it's just like, when you see him do that, you're like, okay, later on, Jason's gonna kill this guy, right. And they're not gonna believe it. Yeah, it's the fucking Chekhov's gun, and that's this whole movie is, it's very, the characters are stupid, and everything they set up, you know immediately almost how they're gonna die. Like Stoner Guy and Stoner Girl, you're kind of just like, all right, you guys are gonna get like fucking blitzed, and then you're not gonna understand what's happening, and Jason's gonna be like, oh, okay, I can easily kill these guys. One is in a porta potty. Here we go.
Speaking of knowing how they're gonna die, the guy who kept on doing the handstands, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I did like that one. Yeah. At least you got to have sex first, though.
Yeah,
in a hammock.
That's true. In a hammock. They
and was it
out.
Okay? And I wasn't sure about this. They made a lot of jokes that this one of the ladies was pregnant. Was she actually pregnant, or was that just?
She didn't drink when they drank.
Man, so Jason's a monster. That's sad. It was just like the whole time I was kind of expecting that. Like,
doesn't know though. That's like the whole thing.
No, yeah, I know, but it's just like
of it.
I don't know why, but it's just like mentally, like a pregnant woman, you think to protect more, and so it's like with a pregnant woman in a horror film, you're like, okay, maybe that will be the final lady. Maybe that's the one that we're going to root for because also she is pregnant, about to be a mom. There's a lot of story there. And
no, she had sex too much. She had sex too much. We're not allowed to care for her. We must.
And she did it in a hammock. That's just, that's just too much fun. I think it would be fun to have sex in a hammock.
That does sound interesting.
Yeah, that was one of the parts of this movie where I was just like, I'm interested. That seems like it would be a lot of fun.
But like you're not like it's not because you're like, oh yes, I'm interested. Eyebrows like bouncing up and down on your skull.
Oh yeah.
But you're like,
it's the hammock part.
You know what? That seems like it could be fun.
It's a new idea.
A really earnest way to look at a sex scene.
It's like, I don't care that they're having sex. I'm not like turned on by the scene. It's the fucking 80s. Like, it's not that good of a sex scene. I'm just like, a hammock. Now that's exciting. That's mixing it up a little bit. You gotta think about the swing factor, and like they're doing it on a fur blanket, so it's like it's gotta be nice. You don't have the ropes biting into you. Like, I feel like that would be the worst part about it, is the ropes would be biting into you.
Yeah, that would make it weird.
They had to figure it out.
I could see things getting tangled in the rope. Yeah, that might.
That might not be fun.
The blanket
might be a little
is
painful.
a good idea.
Yeah. They had this like thick fur blanket underneath it, and I was like, I mean, I would have faux fur. I'm not into fur, but faux fur, I'd be into. But I think I'm ready to go on a closing statements. I ain't got much with this.
Okay, I'll mention what I want to mention in my closing statements. You go ahead, though.
Well, we didn't mention it's directed by Steve Miner again. I believe he directed the last one. And it's written by Martin Kittrosser and Carol Watson, who are a married writing duo. Oh. So that's kind of cool. It'd be kind of fun to like schlock horror with your significant other. I think that'd be enjoyable. We'll talk about schlock horror when we get to written by your lover when we get to Halloween, everybody. Oh, man. Spoilers for Halloween. We watched James Wan's *Malignant*, and there's a beautiful romantic behind the camera story there.
Oh man!
But with Friday the 13th Part 3, I give it 1.5 stars. It's just garbage slasher. Like, it's still fun. It's a fun 1.5 stars. If you can believe that. If you can believe that exists, it's out there. It's a fun 1.5 stars. It's just terrible acting, no story. stupid kids, boring kills. I did like the harpoon through the eye. There's a harpoon through the eye kill that was hilarious, and I really like that.
Yeah.
That's when he first has the mask. That's his first masked kill. Yeah, he walks out there and you can tell that the camera is like 6 feet above the water, even though the point of view is supposed to be in the water from the lady swimming. And, like, the camera's looking at Jason. It's like, again, 6 feet above the water, and it's a 3D shot, so he's trying to shoot it right at the camera.
Yeah,
and it's just like, okay, sure, you're gonna hit her right in the head.
It's a lofting harpoon. It lofts.
That's right. It loses a lot of its trajectory real quick. That's one of the worst part about this film. No joke, is the 3D, because they utilize it so much, and it takes priority over the acting.
Oh,
like
definitely.
I read a lot of articles too, where it's just like the people who worked on this, they would do so many different takes trying to get these 3D shots just right, because you have to have it coming at a perfect angle at the camera so that it catches it perfectly for 3D, so it jumps out of the screen and everything back in the 80s. And that, like, they didn't care how they delivered the lines, just as long as they got the fucking object right. So it's like, there's one scene with Shelley, poor Shelley, where he's trying to throw a wallet at the camera. You know, okay. They're in the shopping area. It's just when they're getting robbed by the trio, whatever they're called.
That's who I want to talk. I don't remember if the group has a name, but the characters' names are Loco, played by Kevin O'Brien, and Vera, played by Catherine Parks, led by Ali, played by Nick Savage.
Thank you. Ooh, Nick Savage.
Yeah.
That's a good name. But yeah, during that scene when they're robbing Shelley and the lady that Shelley's interested in, he's supposed to throw his wallet at the camera for a 3D shot. And apparently they had to do that like 20 or 30 times because he just could not get it right. And apparently the director, his one note to the actor was, "Throw the fucking wallet at the camera, you jackass." That was basically it. Like, I don't have that word for word, but there was a lot of swearing involved where it's just like, they were so tired of it's like, don't even perform. Just get the fucking shot right. You know, that's what it boiled down to for this movie. And it definitely just seems that way. It doesn't seem like many people are trying to act. Right. They're just trying to get the scene done.
That's unfortunate. I'll have to say, honestly, though, I think maybe because of all the takes, sometimes those scenes with those shots do seem better rehearsed.
Just because they're so used to it.
Yeah. Okay, so my closing statement, I do give it a face because we know that is basically just a seal of competency. I mean, honestly, I don't know though. But like you said, I had fun watching it. It's just not memorable. There's nothing to remember about it. What I did want to talk about was actually those three people, so I'm glad you brought them up. Their inclusion in the film was unnecessary, but it allowed for Jason to, get a little bit more experience on his resume. But
that's true.
Besides the usual thing, so that's good. And
also
for him.
And also for a jump scare red herring at the end where like Jason gets distracted, so the final lady can get the one up.
Right. That is right, because some reason Ali saves the day. Spoilers.
even though we got like hacked like 15 times, like off camera, it doesn't make sense.
Well, that was that movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's move on to Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. But before we do that, I have to give my dog some water.
Oh, you know what? I could use a soda pop. Sounds good.
Ah, fabulous. Alrighty.
You know what? I probably could have peed, but I think we're back.
I think we are back, indeed. And on to Halloween 3. Written and directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, who you might know and love from the 1990s miniseries It. Stephen King's It. I don't know if he was the writer, but he was the director on that, and there's some love and hate there. Like, I love Tim Curry in the miniseries, but like, oh my god, the adults did not fucking care at all in that movie outside of Tim Curry. They're just like, this is a paycheck. But we still have John Carpenter and Deborah Hill on as producers. They came back, and they finally realized their vision with Halloween. They wanted to do an anthology series again, just like Friday the 13th, and they had killed off Michael, so they were like, all right, Michael's dead. Let's do something new. We're doing it new, and they went with a very interesting idea. It's called Season of the Witch. Has basically nothing to do with witches, and
basically nothing. Basically nothing.
Until like the last 5 minutes.
yeah. I do like a lot about this movie. And I feel like if it wasn't part of this series, that I would like it a lot more. Knowing that it was the original vision of the producers or directors, whatever, to make an anthology, I think if it actually was the second movie, I'd be perfectly happy.
Agreed. Yeah, if they had continued to do anthologies, I think number 3 would stand out a lot more. I think people would love it a lot more. But but as you said, they went right back to Michael, and so this is the sore thumb. But no joke, I feel bad for the Halloween franchise because I went into this idea we have here where we're going to pit all these 3 against each other and figure out which one wins in the concession or the succession of all these films. I love Halloween. That's one of my favorite horror movies. And yet I still chose Nightmare on Elm Street to beat it. And I'm not giving any foreshadowing away. I kind of am. But when we got to number 3, I was like, oh man, people are going to be surprised, but I fucking love Halloween 3. Season of the Witch is another one of my favorite Halloween films. It's specifically for the kills. The kills are so gruesome. They are so good looking too. Yeah. There are some really good deaths.
Some of them with the what should we call them? Stalkers, maybe. Cochrane's henchmen.
Right. I think stalkers is a good thing to call them. They're just like businessmen, they're straight faced. They don't have emotion. They got suits on and a tie and a little hat.
They're gonna come
driving
get
around
you.
black cars. They're gonna come get you.
They're gonna come get you, and you're not gonna know what to do but defend yourself. And luckily, they are unflinching towards vehicles coming their way and other things like that. You could take them by surprise. And there's some very interesting ways to go. When it concerns these characters.
Okay, so the whole crux of this film, there is a very annoying jingle on the air, and it's the song I've been singing. I won't put you through it again. I know you don't like it, but it's the jingles on the air, and there is an infidelious doctor played by what's his fucking name? Tom Atkins. I don't remember the doctor's name, but Tom Atkins is the lead, and he's a doctor who he has a wife, he has kids. But the home life is kind of rocky. Yeah.
I think they are newly divorced or separated. Because he does say they can come to my place.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that.
So
for whatever reason, I've always remembered them as married. But I do think you're right. I do think they are divorced already. So maybe he's not as infidelious. So maybe that makes him a little less unlikable as I thought.
Yeah, I still don't like him. At first, when I saw the family situation, because that's how they present it first, right? At first he doesn't seem like a half bad guy, but I recognize
he's got a good mustache.
He got a good guy mustache.
Yeah, he's got to be a good guy.
My dad did have a similar mustache, and He also did unfortunately have a divorce from my mother. I say unfortunately, they both have their own lives. It's right, what it is. Right. It's
the divorce is just
20-some years old at this point, so, whatever. It just happens. I did almost immediately kind of feel for this character, but that went away really rather quickly. He's not very likable, I don't think.
I think he's mostly likable.
Yeah, he's mostly likable is a good way to put it.
He's got that older guy womanizing aspect where it's just like, he doesn't necessarily talk down to women.
Getting himself into rooms alone with them. Yeah, he's kind of creepy that way, but
Yeah, he's the main romance between him and the who's the lady? Stacey Nelkin. It's kind of weird when it starts off because I don't know her age, but she looks like she's 20 years younger than him, or maybe just 10 years younger.
Yeah, quite a lot younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she even came back from college to figure out what was going on with her dad.
Yeah, I think that's right. And he's a middle-aged, 40-year-old, 50-year-old doctor. Yeah,
he's a doctor.
It's a little weird.
He's. I would say he's probably in his 40s.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of his cases at night comes in and there's. I think he's rambling. That's it. He's rambling about the masks, the company that makes these masks. He's got some shit to say about Silver Shamrock, and for whatever reason, Tom Atkins, our lead, our doctor guy, he decides he has to be the one to investigate this company and what's going on with these masks. And it don't make sense really.
No,
it's just an investigative doctor.
He's going after Nelkin's character, Ellie Grimbridge is what her name is. The last name I love, Grimbridge. That's perfect for a horror film. But he only is going because he has interest in this woman. That's the only reason.
Right.
Which really kind of throws me at the end. There's this ending, and I feel like we're supposed to expect that there was a swap of certain characters at the end, but maybe the whole time this was the case.
Well,
right?
There's a solid 20 minutes where she's not with him, where she gets kidnapped and he's kidnapped.
I agree.
And that's when the switch happens.
I agree. Maybe that's what they want you to think, but really they want you to they want some select few viewers to understand that Cochran, that wily old coyote, he sent this person out there to reel in this guy for apparently no reason.
Yeah, and that's why I don't agree with that, because there's no reason for him to do it. Plus, she has emotions before she gets kidnapped, and then once she's kidnapped, she has no emotions.
Right, right.
There's a lot of switches. And it's really kind of confusing why he's just okay with her after the switch, where he's just yeah, she's got to be the real one because she's clearly acting normal over here. hasn't talked for 2 hours in this car, but whatever.
He is distressed, assumes that she is equally, if not more, distressed, maybe in shock, and the only people like this are the stalker people. They all have a similar look. There's no reason for him to suspect her.
No reason at all. Not given what he's been through. It's just weird. It makes for a little weird moment. He's not the greatest lead. Right. I will admit to that. But oh my god, there's so much fun about this film.
Well, though, that's not... so you say he's not the greatest lead. I think Tom Atkins did a great job with whatever script.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff, and the story that he was given. I just don't really like Daniel's Chalice, or whatever his name is.
Yeah, that's what I mean. His character as the lead, why is this doctor investigating something? Why, I get why she should have been the lead. She's investigating what happened to her father. That makes sense. But we're focusing so hard on this character, And it's just like, dude, you're a doctor. Get back to your fucking job or your family or what, or your kids or whatever. You know,
yeah. The part
Halloween's
that
coming
he
up.
like abandoned his kids. That's the part that made me upset about it.
Right? Yeah, he's supposed to take him. They're supposed to be at his house. He's supposed to take him trick or treating, but instead he's out here, trying to get laid, basically.
Pretty much.
And doing a weird detective story in a hotel.
Over the phone, his ex-wife or whatever the situation is, she says, "These kids don't even know what you look like anymore." And I feel like that was supposed to be funny for the viewer, but it's like, right. Dude, come on, dude. Yeah, make some time. I know doctors are fucking busy, but right now you're kind of fucking up. You're choosing this over them.
Exactly.
That's shitty.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And he's just a shitty character, but the kills are so nice.
The kills are quite nice, and you know, I really like Cochran too, played by
he's a fun villain.
Dan Herlihy, maybe.
Hurley.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. But he is a fun, sinister villain.
Yeah.
Even if his plan doesn't make sense. Like, okay, spoilers. I think it's time we have to talk a little bit of spoilers because there's things I do want to talk about. So I'll throw up a little wall here.
Okay.
Hello, laddie. Skip to 4240 if you want to skip all them damn spoilers, you hear?
Yeah, here's his plan. He wants all of your kids to wear silver shamrock masks.
Yes.
And then at a certain time on Halloween night, that silver shamrock commercial will play, and any kid wearing that mask will be killed. And
he does so through basic Pavlovian techniques that you can try today.
All you have to do is steal Stonehenge. That's his whole plan. He steals, I think maybe just one rock of Stonehenge, moves it to America, and he's going to play this song, kill your kids, replace them with robots.
Turns them to bugs.
Yeah, he turns...
Okay, then robots. Okay, I like where this is going.
Well, that's it. That's the end of the plan. He's just going to kill your kids and then replace all these kids with robots.
Wow.
That's what he's working on. That's his whole plan. And it's like, cool.
Okay.
Why?
What do you gain out of robots?
This? That's what he's building. That's what all those the stalkers, they're all just robots that he's trying to build. And those were the
I
first
just thought
models.
It was his personal army. Like, I didn't catch him saying that he wanted to replace them. I thought it was just a sacrifice. I thought it was just a sacrifice of innocence for his pagan gods.
But like, I never get the ending because that's all I get from it is like, I just want to kill your kids, and then robots.
I have been a loving toy maker until right now. Until the planets have aligned.
It's just, I never understand it. Like, maybe if it's a sacrifice that does make more sense, and I'll accept it. Yeah. But it's just, his whole plan just always floors me. I'm just like,
he mentions...
What are you doing this for?
He mentions the old gods. He's talking about the Celtic religion. But, I don't know that they,
Is that why he stole Stonehenge?
That's why that's why he stole a piece of Stonehenge. And that's why they kept on... That's hilarious. Why they very heavy-handedly talked about how this was an Irish settlement in California. Like, they really, really were pushing that. And that's why also it's Shamrock.
Nice. Okay. See, I think all that just goes over my head. I'm just like, yay, song, death, having fun.
But obviously I have no idea, and probably this is not a good representation of the Celtic religion. Who fucking knows? I don't. I'm sure the historians that do will try to explain it to you, and they probably don't know either.
Right. Another thing I wanted to talk about behind the spoiler wall was the jingle. because the whole movie is basically just about how this jingle gets under your skin, irritates the fuck out of you. It's eerie as fuck because it's so fucking familiar. It's just London Bridges falling down, but sung by these kids and with a Halloween eerie little lyrics. And it's just constantly plays. There's so many times where the TV will flick on and this commercial's on. And, at first, the characters are just reacting out how we normally react to commercials we see all the fucking time, where we're just like, oh my God, can you turn it off? You're just changing the radio station or turning the TV channel. You're like, fuck that commercial. I'm so tired of this shit. And it's like, that's the whole point of it, is how ads and like advertisement, all that kind of stuff is just, it's all designed to get into your head.
Right.
To fuck with you so that you go out and buy the goddamn product. And I love this jingle so much because they work with that so well throughout this whole movie. Tom Atkins and Stacey Nelkin, they'll have sex, and once they're done doing the business, they'll turn the radio on, and it's just like, bum, 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 and he's like, oh my fucking God. And he turns the channel, and it's just, bum, 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 and he's like, God, it's on every station. It's like, that's funny, that's hilarious. And then they get to the end, where he wants it removed off of the network because it's going to kill your children if it keeps playing. And he's calling all the TV networks and he's like, you gotta turn it off. You gotta turn it off. He's watching one channel, just channel number 3, and it's playing this commercial over and over. And he's like, turn it off. Turn it off. And then they turn it off on number 3. And he's like, oh, thank God. And you're like, you can imagine there's just a crazy old man sitting in his house who's just tired of hearing this fucking song, and he's calling the network. You imagine being the network guy on the other end of this line, where you're just like, dude, I want to turn it off, but this is my job. Like, I can't.
And like, I think Daniel even says, like, do you want to be wrong about this? That's how he gets the guy to turn it off.
Exactly. But then he turns it to channel 4 and it's still playing. And then that's how this whole movie ends. It ends in a freeze frame of him yelling, turn it off! Turn it off! I fucking love it. It is so good because that's how it makes you feel. That's how this whole song is. You're like, yes, turn it off! Turn it off!
Yes.
And that's why I love this jingle. Like, unabashedly love it. Like, yes, I do typically hate repetition, but it's just, this whole thing is designed to irritate you.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. It's just dripping with annoyance.
For me, I will say. Well, should we do closing statements then?
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
I give this movie a full face. Honestly, I do think the fact that it's such an out-of-place movie for this franchise that is... I mean, I haven't watched any of the later films until, like, the remake era, so I guess I can't really say. But I think it's a pretty decent franchise. So I think it's just because of its weird misplaced thing, I don't feel like I can give it a face and a half, nor would I if it was a standalone movie. But I do think I would like it more in that second position. If the first movie was about Michael and then the second movie was this, I think I'd like it more. That's all I can say about it. It's a very competent movie. Watch it. It's weird. For sure. Yeah,
it's very weird, and I agree with you. The fact that it was supposed to be an anthology works for this film. The fact that it didn't turn out to be an anthology just makes people shit on this film.
Yeah.
And I think outside of the Halloween franchise, this is a great movie. Like, I give it 3 stars. Like, it is a fun Halloween film.
Yeah.
And not Halloween film as in a fun franchise film. It's a fun film for this holiday. You put it on around this time of the year, you have fun with it. The kills are gory. They are great. They're gruesome.
It would be a good introduction to horror movies for kids, I think. Like, when there's a lot of good body horror that I think might traumatize some children. Right. I mean, like,
there's a lady who gets zapped in the face.
If your 12-year-old is like, hey, I'm kind of interested in horror movies. I like the thrillers that we've watched. Then you would be like, okay, there's this one that's kind of cheesy and the concept is a concept that would interest a kid. So I feel like it would be a good place to start. And obviously, if it's their first horror movie, they're going to get scared. Yeah. But I'm talking about the age that you would normally introduce a person to this. Right.
You're also going to have to explain, like... You're going to have to sit through some sex scenes. I mean, there's not, like, explicit sex scenes, but, like, there's going to be some awkward scenes with your kid. And, like, I still think the one woman who picks up the chip and gets zapped in the face. Right. I think that one might be a little too brutal, even for a 12-year-old.
Oh, yeah. When they cut back to it after they do all the
all the makeup effects on her face and everything. Yeah. If your kid's, like... Yeah, I do think a teenager like could definitely watch this, like a 12-year-old or so. But like, I don't know. I think there's better films to introduce.
If you want to get them into Cronenberg,
right? Yeah, if you want to, you just want to do the fast track to the body horror. Yeah. You really want to fuck
after Cronenberg, it's Hellraiser.
All right, kid. How old are you? 7, Dad. All right, we're watching Cronenberg.
This is The Fly. You're gonna find out why your dad loves Jeff Goldblum.
No, just to wrap up though on Halloween 3, absolutely love it. Absolutely recommend. 3 stars. Like,
let's do A Nightmare on Elm Street.
A Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Dream Warriors.
Dream Warriors.
And you actually probably know the director, probably not by name, but Chuck Russell. Yeah. He did the Blob remake, but what he's really famous for, at least in my generation, and probably from you and me, he was the director of Jim Carrey's The Mask.
Oh, wow. I recognized the name, but I didn't know for that. I mean,
Chuck Russell.
Things like that movie that just were on all the time as kids, it's just a part of my memory. Nobody created those things. They just exist.
It's a moment in time.
Yeah.
It's written, they got Wes Craven back to write it, alongside Bruce Wagner and Chuck Russell himself, and also Frank Darabont. Probably know the name Frank Darabont. He was the director of Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile. So they got a lot of fucking talent on this film.
Yes, they did. And I enjoyed it. I did.
Oh, dude.
But, I think Dream Warriors should be a series of its own. I mean, that sounds awesome.
You really just you don't want the Nightmare on Elm Street to be a thing. You just want every single movie to be its own entity.
I do, but they are kind of magically their own entity, except for this one also has Nancy.
Exactly. Yeah, this one is like heavily tied into the first one.
Leather and Langenkamp.
But the Dream Warriors, the fun thing about this one, no joke. Again, I've seen all of these films, all of the whole franchise and everything. This is my favorite. Sorry to give spoilers for the rest of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but this is my favorite of this franchise.
Well, there you go.
It is rock solid. It is such a fun film. Alongside Heather Langenkamp, you have Patricia Arquette.
Yes.
I just love her. She's another good actor. David Arquette's sister.
Yes.
David's off doing Scream. She's off doing The Nightmare on Elm Street 3. They both got to work with Wes Craven. Like, that's fucking great.
That is true.
That's a beautiful thing. So, and there's also a very young Lawrence Fishburne, which was fun.
Yes,
I loved seeing Lawrence Fishburne as the
Larry
nurse.
Fishburne, which I thought was interesting.
That's right.
He's very good at it. Really, there's a lot of really good acting in this, and also some okay acting. I mean, but sometimes you get that with teenagers, but for the most part, they did a good job. I think a really good job.
And then you got Zsa Zsa Gabor. Can't forget Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Yes, she played herself apparently.
Oh, really?
Oh, I think she was in the television death.
Gotcha. Oh, that's right. I forgot about the television death. That's a very fun death. And in Robert Englund coming back, I mean, you can't have another Freddy Krueger until the remakes, but
until the remake,
until the remakes, until you get,
and then we'll get Rorschach to do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I couldn't remember the actor's name, but I remember he was Rorschach. And I may have mentioned this a year ago when we did Nightmare on Elm Street, the first film, but it was a rediscovery of mine when I was watching Dream Warriors. There was a name that flashed on the screen. It was line producer Rachel Talalay, and she'll later direct a film in this franchise. Okay. But she is a director in Doctor Who, a recent Doctor Who, with Peter Capaldi. She didn't come on with the new showrunner. She was back with Stephen Moffat, and she was my favorite director for a while for Doctor Who, because like she's a brilliant director, and just seeing her name, I was just like, "Well, Rachel Talalay." I was like, "Wow, she's part of this franchise." What? And I looked into it, and I was like, "Holy fuck!" Her whole beginning of her career was centered around this franchise, kind of. Wow. Because she went from like line producer to directing like a later on film, and I didn't even realize she had directed one of the films in this franchise. So that's awesome. Oh yeah, it was a really good moment for me. I was just like saw that name flash, and I was like, what?
So great. Should we?
I want to give her a shout out.
So we already talked about one of the Dream Warriors. I guess two if you count Nancy. But Patricia Arquette plays Kristen Parker. And at one time, very early on in the film, Patricia says Kirsten, and so it confused me for the rest of the movie. But I'm pretty sure it's Kristen Parker. And the problem is that Patricia Arquette really, really does look like my sister Kristen. So it was really kind of strange. And like they both also are rather reserved, at least Kristen Parker, the character is. And so is my sister. So I was like, what is this?
You're just completely
Dream Warriors is messing with my head.
To explain them, they are a group of kids who are all suffering from a shared nightmare, but they had never met each other before. They don't know each other. They're not friends. They don't go to the same schools. I think I don't think they do or anything.
No,
they all just
think any of them knew each other.
Yeah, they just come to this group therapy session. I don't remember who the doctors are leading it.
Neil Gordon, played by Craig Wasson. He's the gentleman who works directly with Nancy. And then I believe the doctor's name was Dr. Elizabeth Sims, played by Priscilla Pointer. And she was kind of the real skeptic.
She was bad cop.
Yeah, she I think she was also a head of the department.
Yeah, and they bring on young intern Nancy from the first film, who has suffered. She suffered and lived through Freddy Krueger already,
which is debatable.
Exactly, it's very fair. But she knows what these kids are going through. She can relate to them. But at the same time, as an intern getting into the American working world, she has to play her cards very carefully. Otherwise, she might just be inserted into this group as part of the therapy itself. Right. And she immediately enlists the male doctor's help because he's kind of infatuated with her a little bit, it seems.
Yeah, even though oh my God, right before she shows up, they're like, fuck them sending this shooting star genius trying to fuck with our kids. We know what we're doing. Our therapy is working. They're starting to accept.
Yeah, and she shows up and he's just like, well, maybe she's got some good ideas.
Maybe she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird switch, but it's really hilarious. It becomes all of these kids together trying to survive Freddy. Yeah, it's a really unique, not unique, but it's in the first two Nightmare on Elm Street films, they've kind of milked it dry for one kid trying to survive this nightmare.
Right, definitely.
And so to invigorate the entire franchise and to be like, Freddy has gotten too strong, one kid can't defeat him. We have a group of kids now who are, they're all shared in this experience. They're all trying to do this together. It's really cool.
Yeah, and they got dream powers.
Got dream powers.
I was like, man, I hope I go to bed and have dream powers.
You can. I mean,
see, that's what I want. That's what I want the Dream Warriors to become. Is this like
right?
You know, that like 80s super team vibe, but like you know, actually. I don't know. Like, I love the concept of those, but I find most of them unwatchable.
Right. Right. But it'd be cool, you know. It's just like a group of warriors going around saving children from their nightmares. Like, that's a nice idea.
That would be awesome. Like make it awesome. Like the X-Men. But like and then when they're in real life, you know, sometimes they think they can do what they could do in the dream and they can't.
Exactly. They can break through the Matrix. And then they just fall and hurt themselves.
Yeah, and like Inception, and then the tops never stop spinning. Never stop.
Exactly. And speaking of that, I do want to bring it up. You can practice lucid dreaming, and eventually you can have dream powers. Because I did this in high school, where I practiced, because I watched Inception, I was obsessed with Obsession, and I've worked every single day on, you know, basically what you do is when you're awake, you spin your top, whatever your fulcrum or, you know, your pendulum, whatever it is, whatever you can do in the real world that wouldn't work in the dream world or vice versa. You do that every single day, and eventually when you're in the dream world, your mind is just going on instinct and will do that. So mine was like, try to breathe through your nose. You can't do that in real life. If you plug your nose and then you try to breathe through it, you can't do that. And I did that every single day. And then one day when I got into the, you know, when I was sleeping, I was in the dream and I plugged my nose and I can breathe fine. And I was like, oh, I must be dreaming. I must be dreaming. And then I went flying because that was the first thing I thought of to do. It was like, I want to fly. And so I was flying and it was great. And I had full control over the dream. Like I could, you know, it was a great lucid dreaming experiment. I had dream powers. You can do it too.
I only achieved it once. And it was quite on accident. I did not work towards this. I just was having the most mundane dream of my life where I drove a station wagon and then I realized I don't own a station wagon. This is a dream. I don't have to be in the woods in the middle of winter. And then I blasted off like a rocket. And then all of a sudden I was flying over the ocean and the dolphins were jumping out of the ocean. And then, like, you know, that weird mirror horizon thing happened where the sky and the ocean didn't even matter anymore. Dream powers.
That's beautiful. That's great. We're dream warriors.
Dream warriors.
To get back to the movie, I do want to, another thing I want to applaud this film on, the murders.
Yeah.
The kills. They are equally as gruesome as Halloween 3.
Yes.
There's one kid who was puppeteered by the veins in his arm.
Oof.
Oh. Oof. Yeah, that one's hard to watch, and it's so good.
Yeah.
It's just everything about this film is, again, I think what's gonna, and I as I said, I feel real bad for Halloween. I think what's gonna end up happening is, even though I love Halloween, and I find those a lot of fun, those films, the imagination of A Nightmare on Elm Street is just so unique and great and very entertaining that it's always going to lift it above.
The thing is that you can't add these elements from this movie into those other movies because this is a dream world. Like, you can do fucking whatever you want. So, like, the more you build into it, the better it's going to be.
Right. You can have fucking Freddy as a giant worm with a Freddy face. And it's like, sure.
As they do.
It, sure.
Yeah.
As they do.
Very Beetlejuice.
He can
he can
pop out of a TV screen. That was great when he his head popped out of the TV box. Oh my God. That's so funny. I'm
going to go through and name the kids real quick because we didn't do that. So we got Kincaid, played by Ken Sagos. And I hope I said your name right. Just like every day. I'm so bad at this show. Joey, played by Rodney Eastman. Taryn, played by Jennifer Rubin. Philip, played by Bradley Gregg. And Will, played by Ira Hayden. And I hope I didn't leave anybody out. Lorenzo may have been one, played by Clayton Landy. Who is the
chick that is badass?
Okay, see, that is my favorite line in the movie when they're expressing who they are, like their powers. They turned to her and she said, "In my dreams, I'm beautiful. and she flips out 2 sling blades, and she's like, "And bad."
Yeah, it's so good. And like it's funny because it's like I think she's beautiful outside of the dreams, but when she says that she's beautiful, she has like the punk rock hairdo and everything. She's like
wearing leather.
Beautiful.
Yeah, a lot of jewelry, a lot of piercings. She looks pretty cool, but like she doesn't know how to hold a knife. But it's also though, like I just love the delivery on that fucking line so much, man.
Oh yeah, it is funny.
I kept on saying it though every time she came on screen. I said it.
I'm bad. But it's funny because like at the end she gets this great moment where it's like, Freddy's doing his job. He's trying to pick them off one by one because as a group they are too powerful for him. So he's got to pick them off one by one, try to whittle them down, classic horror shit. And when it's her turn to have that one-on-one moment, you have that classic iconic, like she's in an alleyway and she's like walking down and it like cuts to her and she's like momentarily she's afraid. She's like, oh no, Freddy's coming. And then she just pulls out those knives or whatever and she's like, okay, I can face this.
Yeah.
And it's a moment where it's like, you don't get this kind of a moment in a horror film because normally they want you to be afraid with the character.
Right.
And then this time, you're just like, when she pulls out those knives, you're like, fuck yeah, kill Freddy.
Yeah,
like, do it.
And then, though, Freddy, man, the way she goes it's the saddest one for me because she was an addict. She turned to drugs to escape the dream before she got help.
Right.
Or was thrown in there, whichever. And yeah, his razor glove and his other hands turn into needles and he induces a dream overdose. And that was kind of sad. Yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned that because that's the big negative I have for this movie is how it focuses on 2 things in particular: addiction and suicide. Because those are very key aspects to the plot in this. Because they think the doctors think these kids are just committing suicide through their night terrors.
Right.
They think these things are driving them. They're all messed up kids. They're all, this is coming from the doctor's perspective, not mine.
Right.
They're all messed up kids. And these night terrors are driving them to the brink of their sanity. And then they're just killing themselves. And there were two scripts initially that were written. One script was written from John Saxon, and it was a prequel that set up that Freddy was... It was a prequel where Freddy was set up by Charles Manson. So it's kind of... Yeah, it's really stupid. It kind of just like fucks off with Freddy being like this old uber villainous kind of thing. It's just like no. Charles Manson was the villain. Freddy's just mistaken. Dumb. I'm glad they did not go there.
Yeah.
Another script that was not chosen was written by Robert Englund himself, which was paralleling the first film, where Freddy was now in Nancy's house and was setting up booby traps rather than the other way around, where in the first film Nancy set up booby traps for Freddy. So it's like, and I think it's great that Robert Englund wrote a script. Like I think that's cool. Yeah. I think it got reworked later on, but the script they did choose was just heavy with the idea that these kids were committing suicide, and they had to tone it back a lot. Because it was very dark, very...
Right. I mean, it is. The movie still is.
It still is. But it's just that there's one scene in particular that I just do not like, and it's the therapist himself, the one guy. I'm sorry, I forget his name already.
Neil Gordon?
Thank you. Yeah, the first kid dies. They're all in group therapy together. They're talking about... how that affected them, how that kid dying affected them.
Yeah.
And the doctor is telling them all, he committed suicide. He did this to himself. He failed you. He failed himself. I hated it so much because suicide is a very hard subject to talk about. Right. But it's honestly not about failure, in my opinion. It's just the worst part of your life. It's like if you are at that area, I mean, one, call somebody, call the hotline, the suicide hotline, talk to somebody if you need to. It's very helpful. There's a lot of good resources out there that you can turn to if you're feeling down. But if you're feeling down, if you're in that place, don't think of it as failure, because it's a very hard moment where you're at, but like it's not failure that brought you there. Not always, at least. There's so many different circumstances that could be affecting that. But that whole scene, just his character, I just immediately hate his character in that scene, because he's trying to turn this kid into it's like, you don't have to become this kid. Kind of villainize him or whatever. I don't know how to put it.
It did feel that way. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
it was so disrespectful.
There was something, there was something affecting this kid so strongly that, like, if we were to take the skeptical view, obviously we know that he was being literally puppeteered. Right. If we take it from the doctor's perspective, we should recognize that there was something terribly wrong in this. It's going on in this kid's head as well as the rest of the kids. Like, it's not their fault, but he blamed it. Yeah, he put the blame on the person who committed suicide, and I do think that's wrong and not a way to look at it. A good way to look at it. It's not healthy, because all of those people's loved ones, then they turn around and they blame that person. Where, obviously they want to blame somebody. That's the first thing you do when you're grieving, really. Right. And maybe they felt it was better than blaming themselves or the kids somehow blaming the group, but it's not.
Yeah, I'm sure he had his reasons in his mind for it. It's a fictional fucking movie, but still, I'm sure the character had like a motivation for that. But it really just kind of felt like him not wanting to take any kind of credit for himself for, he's the fucking doctor.
Right.
Right.
It seemed like he was kind of avoiding his own guilt. Yeah, I'll agree.
Yeah, his own responsibility in the matter. Yeah, and that's
not that it necessarily was his fault too. He was trying to do. I feel like up to that point they were doing the best they could with the information they had, except for nobody was listening to these fucking kids. No,
yeah, nobody.
Why? How the hell do you think they have the same dream at the same time? And you just and you just think, oh, well, there must be something very badly wrong with each of them internally. And yes, that's probably the case. But you know what? If you really think about it, that's probably you too. That's like anybody that you run into in the street. There's probably something that happened to them in their life that is awful.
In the real world, if we were doctors, dream doctors, like studying dream and everything, if we were approached by this group therapy kind of session thing, this whole idea, and all these kids are talking who have never met each other, they're talking about the exact same dream, I feel like even in the real world, while we might be skeptical, while we might not believe them, we would be like, all right, we don't know enough about dream science. We don't know enough about the brain. Right. So there must be something here. Even if we don't believe these kids, we should still take them seriously and try to make them feel more comfortable.
Right. Like, I feel like at that point, an ESP event would still be a plausible hypothesis. Like, I would feel like, okay, we're going to do everything in our power to prove against this, but we're not going to rule this out until it's ruled out, because we just don't fucking know.
Exactly.
Just don't know the power of the mind. And I feel like we know a lot more than we did 40 years ago, but we still don't know a lot. So, yeah, I feel like they would be like, there's something going on that's connecting these people's dreams, and that is weird. I think what my assumption would be is that there was a collective event that these kids don't know that they collectively were connected to, that happened to all of them at the same time.
Which, as it turns out, is exactly what happened. Spoilers. I don't want to get into that, though. We won't get into that. Because I highly recommend this film. Again, as I said, my favorite of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Like, Dream Warriors is always one I go back to because it's just fucking rad.
It's like, super cool.
Rock solid.
Love dream powers. I do think that it might be a little less scary than the other two movies. Yeah. Because the heroes have more power.
Exactly. And I think where the fright comes from in this film is like Freddy's trying to pick them off.
Yeah.
Like his little calls where he's like trying to like lure one of them away. You're right, it's not as terrifying, but it's those little moments. It just like picks at you. And then there's the gore factor on top of it, which makes it even more horrifying to watch. But yeah, the group aspect of your heroes definitely does make it a little less frightening because you're a little
power in numbers, you know.
Exactly, yeah, and there's a lot of fear in being alone. So it definitely does kind of detract a little bit from the horror. But if I were to go into my closing statements, it doesn't detract from the movie at all.
No, not at all.
3.5 stars. It's so fucking good. And I'm so sorry to Halloween 3. I really wanted it to win, but it's going up against Dream Warriors. I have to choose Dream Warriors to win. Will anyone knock Nightmare on Elm Street off of the winning
I don't know,
podium?
man, because I'm 100% with you. After I watched Halloween 3, because I watched them in the order that we talked about them, I felt like that it could possibly win. But this movie was awesome. I don't know if I want to give it a face and a half, just because I don't know why I want it. It's fun. It's a face and a half movie. There you go, guys, people.
Nice.
Guys, people.
People
of Guy.
And Robert Englund gets a good bitch line in there.
Yes, a couple of them. There's one that's even written. Man, I wish I remember exactly what he said, but yes, this is the movie where Freddy starts saying "fucking bitch."
No, that was in the
Not
second
fucking.
one. Yeah.
Oh, that did happen in the. Oh yeah.
He said bitch in the second one. Yeah. You might have said it in the first one too. I just don't remember. But yeah, this one has some good bitch lines though, and honestly, it's getting to the point where like we were talking earlier about the punk rocker chick. And I was about to call her like, yeah, kill him. I was about to say like, yeah, kill him, bitch. But I was only about to do that because of Freddy. Because it's just, when I'm talking Freddy, that's in my head. But like, that's not how I think about her at all. It really isn't.
So I found the one that I really wanted to mention, and it was in the TV kill. And we keep on mentioning that, and I don't want to mention any more than that. I want people to discover what happened. But he says, "Welcome to prime time, bitch."
His delivery of it is so good.
Yes,
Robert Englund.
Gotta love him.
So fucking brilliant. But I think that is it for today's threesome.
Yeah, we did it.
Nightmare on Elm Street still sitting on top. Will it ever be knocked off? Or will it only be knocked off once we run out of Nightmare on Elm Street films and have to finish this with just Friday the 13th versus Halloween?
Well, on that note, I guess you do that.
I am the Green Traveler from Gorsh.
And I am the Faceless Leone, who forgets the format of the show from time to time. Safe travels, and good night. Green and Faceless on the Couch is a proud production of Fiction Works 19. If you like the show, please show your support by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Like, follow, subscribe, wherever you might listen. We also now have a Patreon account. If you feel so inclined to support us in a financial manner, please become a patron by visiting patreon.com/greenandfaceless. You can also find more information about us on our Facebook account or on the FictionWorks 19 Instagram account. Thank you so much for listening.